I hope you're not tired of talks about AI. This is another one, but this is going to be about application security. And because the subject is quite broad, we're going to go very briefly over it. So like mentioned, my name is Radostina. I'm here with Yordan, my friend and colleague. Both of us work in Scalefocus. I thought we had different background. I'm coming from quality assurance, project management, business. Danny here is a technical guy who is a developer and into infra. Most of our interests are in application security and secure software development. But don't get confused by my new appearance, where I channel my inner black eye. What was that? Never mind. I'm more into defensive security, and Danny here is the guy that you need to consider the threat because he is into offensive. Now, we're considered to be living in the age of AI, and I know Patrick in this morning briefly talked about this, but concepts about AI date way back to the antiquity. However, the modern theories that we now leverage on were built mostly in the 1930s to 1950s. And fast forward to 2017, where we actually have the availability to explore these theories now with the help of big data, deep learning. Coming to today, 2024, where the global AI market is valued for $196 billion, and more than 40% of companies worldwide use it. But that's not all. In the next 6 years, we're expecting the AI market to grow to $1.85 trillion. So if you're considering a career change, this is the right time to do it because there's a huge lack of AI specialists. And not only that, there's a huge gap for security specialists. So if you combine both, you're going to be on the right track. Now, pop quiz time. Can anybody mention or guess the 2 industries where AI is mostly used at the moment? Whoever does, I have a nice prize for you guys. It's a really cool game in terms of security that you can use with your whole team. Close. It's one of them. What? No. It's the place, I'll give a hint, it's the place where people are mostly laid off due to AI. Customer service. Okay, who was the first one? Okay, Danny, go ahead and then. So yes, the customer service is the first domain where AI is mostly used, and this is according to Forbes. And then the second one might be a little bit of, a surprise for you. It's cybersecurity and fraud. But if you think about it, this is actually quite natural, because in security you have so much data. The security domain is quite broad, and you need to analyze this data. And if you don't have trained security specialists, which are hard to get and expensive, you're going to have a lot of problems. So this is where AI can actually help, and a lot of tools and security are leveraging on AI these days. Now, you might like or not like AI, because everybody is speaking about it, it's such a hype, but the truth is that already 33% of hackers are using AI in their attack crafting techniques, which means if you don't use AI in your defense mechanisms, or if you do not consider, you're going to lose the cat and mouse games between offensive and defensive security. Now, the coin always has 2 sides. So let's say we want to enable AI in our development. We need to consider what are the pros and cons, which Danny is going to explain.
Indeed, yeah. So before deciding if you want to adopt AI in your AppSec program, you should be aware of the pros and cons. So I'll start with the benefits. As you already know, LLMs or any AI system is actually pretty good at processing vast amount of data. So that makes such solutions pretty good for doing predictive analysis of the end users, meaning they can potentially pinpoint malicious activity even before it happens. Another point is since AIs, as I said, are pretty good in processing data, they can contextualize different vulnerabilities that are reported by static or dynamic code analysis tools. so they can drastically reduce the number of false positives reported by such tools. Another point, personally, I'm using Rackflow to upload different documentations and specifications related to different tools like Falco, Nuclei, SameGrep, etc. And by leveraging Rackflow, I can reduce the time, for example, in order to create complex code QL queries or write different Falco rules, let's say. Now on to the risks.
There we go, sorry.
Yeah, as any tool, you always have to consider the security of the tool itself, so keep that in mind. Additionally, always when you're having a dependency on AI, you're basically using an automated tool to do some sensitive decisions for it. And this is something not ideal in most of the companies or organizations, so you should be very careful when evaluating the risks of using such systems. And finally, the cost of implementation. In order to have LLMs or AI in your organization, ideally you should have a trained personnel who first can integrate and bootstrap the supporting infrastructure, and later on fine-tune the models or do other techniques like RAG.
Now, I guess most of you should know the software development process because either most of are developers. How many developers do we have here? Okay, then how many quality assurance people? Okay, anybody in security? No? Unfortunate. Okay, so you should all know how the normal software development process works. I'm not going to go into details, but let's say we want to make this software development a bit more secure. How will we do that? We will add security checks or tools to each of the stages. So starting from the planning, whenever we're considering doing any type of development, new feature, new product, we should always take into consideration if this product is going to be part of any compliance regulations. Let's say you're building something for a bank. PCI DSS is probably going to be a regulation which is going to hit you, or GDPR if you're working with the union, or HIPAA if it's something with healthcare in the US. So these should be all considered in the beginning if you don't want to have a hard time afterwards incorporating security in the very end. Going to the requirements, this is where we normally recommend for you to do threat modeling. And I'm going to explain about the threat modeling in a bit. But if you need to gather all the technical security requirements and you pretty much don't know how to do it, threat modeling is going to be your best friend in how to achieve that. Going to the design phase, of course, everybody's going to consider the secure design principles, but also a very valid point, which often is missed by teams, is the lack of policies, procedures, and rules that are implemented during the development process, which everybody should follow. And I'm not talking about tools here. Tools are great, but they're not going to make you secure. Your weakest point is the people who are either using or developing. So going into implementation, I'm guessing this is, I'm hoping it's not, but I'm guessing that this is the place where you mostly see security, or this is the place where you mostly do it. Normally in this phase, we have different tools like software composition analysis, dependency scanning, license scanning, static code analysis, the dynamic code analysis, security hardening, security management, etc. Deployment normally is assumed with vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. Here you can do either automated or manual vulnerability assessment. However, if this is the only place where you're doing security, I recommend you revisit the whole process and incorporate it earlier, shift left. Because if you find a problem during this phase, it's going to be very timely and cost-effective for you to fix it. Sometimes these problems actually lead to change of design. Now, even if we're done with our active development of this software, we should always consider the maintenance of this software. One of the first attack starting points which hackers use are unpatched or not maintained software. So they would use AI, like I mentioned, or some other tools to check what kind of software you're running on. And most of the time, if it's outdated, they have vulnerabilities to them. So they're going to use it to start an attack against you. So this is just an example of how you can achieve a secure software development. However, depending on your case, you might need some of these or more of these. Now let's see, because we're talking about AI again, how this is going to do a look if we incorporate AI to it. Danny?
Yeah, so essentially, you can integrate AI in all of the 6 phases in the secure software development lifecycle. For example, starting with planning, you can use AI to help you navigate through the different methodologies or regulations that you must obey. Then in the requirements phase, you can use AI to help you create threat models, something that I'll try to show you in a couple of minutes. Then in the design phase, an LLM can be easily used to automatically validate the security requirements that were defined in the previous stages. Then in the implementation phase, you can use AI to first do secure code reviews, and additionally, it can, as I said earlier, help you reduce the false positives reported by the different vulnerability testing tools. Then in the deployment phase, actually, you can use AI to help you in the penetrations tests that are done on the already alive application, and even do red team exercises. Finally, in the maintenance phase, you can use AI to enhance your runtime security tools and potentially automatically respond to threats.
And this is pretty much how you can secure your software with the use of AI. Now, I want to mention something here for a fact. Since May 2024 this year, the European Union announced the Artificial Intelligence Act. So now we already have a legal frame of how we should be incorporating and managing artificial intelligence. Now, this is not very technical at the moment, but still, if you use AI in your development, you should have a look over that and consider it. Now, going back to threat modeling, which I promised, threat modeling is probably the coolest and free thing that you can do with your team, even if you're not a security expert. Pretty much imagine a situation where you're gathering the whole team, I don't know, engineers, back-end, front-end, quality assurance people, infra people, DevOps people, product management, business intelligence, and all of you on one of your Scrum meetings or another meeting that you choose, you make a data flow diagram of the feature or the product that you're developing. Now, when you do that data flow diagram, all of you are going to have different opinion on what kind of threats can happen or can occur to this product. And once you start mapping the threats to that data flow diagram, you're going to start doing the so-called threat modeling. This will help the whole team evolve in terms of security, so it will boost the awareness. Also, many times I've seen teams working on one thing and have no idea how the whole thing works together, you know, in the end. So this is going to bring the awareness of everyone in terms of what they need to do in order for their job to be done and be easy for the next person to pick up. So if you don't know about threat modeling, if this is the first time you've heard about it, I've prepared some things that get you started. There's a book by Adam Shostok. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. He used to be the head of secure software development lifecycle in Microsoft some years ago, and he is considered the father of modern threat modeling. So he is explaining how this is done in that book. And the present which the gentleman got is the game of elevation of privileges. It's also done by Microsoft. It's open source. You can download it and print it. It's pretty much a card game that you can use with the whole team when you have that meeting, and you can play the game, and actually it's going to help you in finding the threats and where they can occur. After that, of course, you're going to need to keep track of that, and this is where we have the OWASP tool for threat modeling that you can use. The end goal is to achieve something like this. This is a data flow diagram where we have how the different services are communicating and possible threats that might occur. Now, because this might be a little bit different or hard for you in the beginning, this is why we want to help with AI. And Danny here is going to show you a demo of threat modeling with the use of AI.
Yep, now to the fun part. Keep in mind that's a live demo, so chances are something will break. But anyways, yeah, it will be a bit harder for me. Anyways, so just to add to what Radi just said, so threat modeling is a way to proactively identify potential vulnerabilities in your application and to think of a counter or compensating controls for them. What is Stride? So Stride is a framework that it's pretty good in categorizing the different potential vulnerabilities in 6 categories. So for example, spoofing, that's pretending to be someone else in order to gain access. So as an example, you can use stolen credentials to log in some other person account. Tampering, that's simply said altering data or code in the application with malicious purposes, of course. And for an example, modifying a database to inject harmful data or exploit a SQL injection. Repudiation, that's a weird one, but denying an action taken in the system. So for an example, a user denying that they deleted files and it cannot be proven otherwise. Information disclosure, probably most of you are aware of that, but it's simply said leaking sensitive data about the application or the backend services. Denial of service, again, a well-known one. Overloading server to cause a downtime. And finally, elevation of privilege. That's simply said, gaining higher access to functionalities that you should not be permitted. Now, what I've created is a simple Electron application that it's using at the moment ChatGPT with their latest model. However, I've run some local tests with Llama 3.1, and the results are pretty much the same. So how the whole thing works, when I click on Add, there's a modal that pops up. So after weeks of testing, actually it turns out that the LLM is capable of creating a threat model just based on the following information. So first thing, the application name. I'll just use Real Estate API. The application version is not really needed for the threat model itself, but it's good for tracking purposes. And then the description, I've already prepared one for that. Scroll a bit. So an API in real estate allows users to access real estate data and other information, such as blah, blah, blah. All right. Then we need to check if it's public-facing or not. In this case, it will be. The application type, obviously, it's an API. The data sensitivity, meaning the highest level of data sensitivity that the application will be processing. In this case, it would be private. For the business criticality, I wouldn't say it's important or mission critical. Let's say operational. And finally, the authentication method, something very important. Since it's an API, probably will be token-based authentication. As you can see, there are password-based, passwordless-based, MFA, federated authentication, biometric, and token-based. Now, when I click Create, first the application is created in the backend, and now it asks me if I want to create a threat model for it. I'll click Yes. So what is happening on the backend? Well, the application is gathering all of the information that I provided. It's creating the prompt, and it's sending the prompt to ChatGPT. So in a couple of seconds, hopefully, we'll see a successful message. Yeah, so the threat model is created. And if we navigate to the application here, on the right side, we can see all the threat models. We have only one. And when I open this model, you can see all of the identified potential vulnerabilities. So for an example, if you take a look, all of the threats are very tailored to the description I gave to the LLM. So for this scenario, an attacker uses a compromised token to impersonate a legitimate user and access private real estate data. Something very valid. And as a suggestion, implement strict token validation mechanism and regular token expiration policies. Unfortunately, we don't have much time, but as you can see, for all of the 6 categories, we have at least 4 to 5 potential vulnerabilities. I can even sort them by priority. And yeah, so if you are curious to learn how exactly it works and what prompt I'm using, please reach out to me after this session. And yeah, we can discuss it in details. One final thing, based on all of the information I gathered about the application, meaning the description and the threat models, the LLM is also capable of creating a very rudimentary DFG layer 1 diagram. It's very basic, I know, but it can be used in the design phase to highlight all of the functionalities, plus the requirements that were gathered from the threat model.
Yes, this demo, we made it especially for Insta, maybe in the last couple of weeks. But the idea is for the first diagram, which we showed you, in the next couple of months to make this diagram look the same as that one. This is how you can practically use artificial intelligence in your day-to-day work. Now, does anybody has questions? We still have 2 minutes left. Either everything was...
Question.
Go ahead.
So maybe, I'm sure you faced some interesting challenges while adopting AI for your security practices. Maybe you can share some of the challenges and how you effectively managing them.
Honestly speaking, so far we didn't have so many challenges with AI because not so many people are on that phase. You know, this is something which recently developed in the last couple of years. And the only thing that we've been talking with our colleagues is mostly how to help them secure this AI, because our main goal is to help secure software development. So we would go over their implementation and what could go wrong in terms of AI safety, which Yordan mentioned. But very practically, mostly where AI is used at the moment in terms of cybersecurity is in tools for SOC, CM, where all the data which is gathered from the tools is analyzed by artificial intelligence, and it's helping like the whole team of SOC engineers and security analysts.
Okay, thank you. So thank you very much for the session. If you have more questions to our speakers, Radostina and Yordan, they will be in the networking area. So you can, in the breaks, you can ask them questions that you might have.
Okay,
thank you.
Well, I can't open my last slide. Wait for a second.
Yeah.
Security is everybody's responsibility, and don't wait for the breach to teach. Thank you.